The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning or good afternoon where you're located. This is Stuart Blumenthal with ETHOSystems. We're going to get started in about 30 seconds. I see a couple last names popping in, so we'll get started in about 30 seconds here. Awesome. I think we got everyone in their seats. So want to welcome everyone to our webinar on sales tax processing within Sage Intacct. My name is Stuart Blumenthal. I'm the Intacct Practice Director here. Also, we have with us today Joel Wright from Avalara, who will be helping me with the second part of this presentation as once we get into the different types of solutions within Sage Intacct at this point here. Just for a quick logistics for the webinar, this is usually about 30 minutes, might go a couple minutes over, might go a couple minutes shorter, but the goal is to keep it within that 30-minute time frame. All the phone lines are muted, so sorry about that, but we are going to, we don't need to have any of those background noises going on. So if you do have a question, please use the questions feature within the GoToWebinar. We'll make sure we keep track of that, and feel free to use that throughout the presentation. Just a couple updates. We're going to be doing some upcoming webinars. So next month in July, I know it's the middle of summer, no one really wants to do a webinar, but we're going to be talking about inventory optimization and barcoding within Sage Intacct. We have a great solution there. The following month, we're going to be talking about our Salesforce integration with Sage Intacct, and then we're going to get back into September once everyone gets back to school timeframe. We're going to be talking about smart rules training. So we're going to get into some product training once September comes back out. So feel free to sign up for these. If you want to copy the PowerPoint, also please just put your name in the questions feature and I will make sure that you get a copy of the PowerPoint with those links. Those links were also sent to you via email for those that are on our list. So sales tax. So for construction companies and again, as you know, with ETHOSystems, we specialize in real estate and construction. So construction has its own kind of set of unique rules regarding sales tax. But in most industries nowadays, sales tax is so important. You're seeing companies and you're seeing counties, states trying to get more and more revenue from sales tax. And in fact, if you haven't been keeping track of it, Colorado has just announced a big change that's coming in effect as of July 1st, I believe, of this month. So with that, sales tax is built into Sage Intacct. And there's 3 ways of setting it up. And you can see these 3 ways on the screen here. Do you have the ability to do simple tax, advanced tax, and then Avalara tax? And I'm going to talk Avalara AvaTax. Simple tax and AvaTax are built into your subscription. There is nothing you need to do regarding that. And the way it basically works is with simple tax, it's, as it says, really simple. What you're basically doing is that you're putting in a percentage amount in the subtotal area of your screen, and that's it. It's very, very, it's a flat rate amount. You put that in. You don't have schedules. So if you have differing amounts of sales tax rates, you need to know what those rates are, which is not the smartest thing to do for data entry. It could cause a lot of issues. But again, for someone who's just got very simple needs for sales tax, that's built into the product. The second way, which is what we do for most of our construction clients, is the advanced tax. And this is where you start setting up your different tax jurisdictions, your rates, you set up schedules, you assign that to both the customer and to the item. And as a result, that gets you set up, has it automatically calculate your sales tax rates within the system. I will tell you that this works really well, but it is also a lot of setup. And I want to specify that there's a lot of setup regarding that. The third option, which again, when we'll have Joel present on in about 15 minutes, is the Avalara AvaTax, which what's cool about Avalara is that it's built into, the integrations are built into the system. So you don't have to worry about adding a third-party product to Sage Intacct to make it work with Avalara. It's built into the system, so which is really nice. So it has got those integration links and everything done, and that way they can handle all the sales tax calculations for you. There is, again, additional cost to that. I don't want to mislead anyone, but again, there are some major advantages of having that. Just to kind of explain how the sales tax works, and again, I'm going to be focusing on the advanced, not the simple one, because simple, again, as we mentioned, is very simple and not used by almost any construction company we know out there. So depending upon the module, if you're in accounts receivable or order entry, basically what you do is you have a customer. You associate the customer to a contact tax group. And then you also have something called an account label, and you associate that to an AR, account label tax group. And then what you end up doing is that you come, the arrows are kind of hard to see here, but what you do is you bring those into something called a tax schedule map. To make up the tax schedule map, what you end up doing is you have your tax detail. Those details come together for a tax schedule, and then they make up a map. So then the map gets connected to the customer contact tax group and the AR account label group to figure out how much to charge. So there is a lot of work that goes into the setup there. And same thing for the order entry side. The only difference in the order entry side is instead of looking at account labels, it's looking at items. And these could be both non-inventory and inventory items. So it doesn't, you don't have to, when you see items, it's not inventory items, it's non-inventory or inventory items that make that up. And so that's kind of the schedule you put together here. So let me kind of give you an example here. So I've got a tax detail information here. So what you'll see is that when I go into Intacct here, I will have my tax detail. I've got my the county that they're in. Now, what I don't like about this, I'll be very transparent, is that if the rate changes, you gotta change the percent here, but they put in the ID and description, so it's going to make it a little bit harder. Not a big deal, but it was just a screenshot of a system we were setting up. But this is where you put in the percentage that has to be changed at that point. So if you are doing sales tax and you're throughout the state of Arizona, for example, you're gonna, with sales tax for construction in Arizona, you have to figure out that you have a bunch of different areas. Every single county has, and every single state or city has its own sales tax rate. So you have to get all those into the system. So here we got Pinal County at this point here. And then what we do is that we've brought those together for Apache Junction. So what we've done is Apache Junction is comprised from a scheduling point of view of Pinal as well as Apache Junction there. That's their abbreviation we used or they used for that. And so these two together make up that percentage. So we would have also had to set up a tax detail information specifically for Apache Junction as well. Those two came together, makes up that rate at that point. So now we've got this schedule out there that we've created. What we end up doing at that point is that saying based upon the item tax group. So we a lot of times will make our items either taxable or non-taxable. So that makes it a little bit easy there. We'll create a contact tax group. This is what we're assigning to the customer. So any customer that has this contact tax group of Apache Junction PC will get charged this schedule at this point here. So as you can see, if you're manually assigning that also to the customer, so you got to make sure that your customers are set up 100% right. So I know I went pretty fast there. Any questions regarding the actual setup? So again, you set up your detail, you set up your schedule, you set up your map, and then once you have this map set up, this is where you assign the contact tax group to the customer, and you assign the item tax group to the item at that point, and it brings it all together. Does not look like we have any questions. So, a couple things to keep in mind here. We talked about most clients in the construction need the advanced sales tax. So we talked about that. And again, you're getting down to, it's, you know, every state's different, but again, you have city, county, and state. So you can have up to 3 different levels depending upon how you're trying to track that information. What I always tell people is test this out. Test out the transactions. Test out the general ledger posting. Test out the reports. All those things are really important. If you don't do that, that is one of the things that we see. A lot of people are like, oh yeah, it works. That looks great on that transaction. And then, it's a month later and they're like, wait a minute, I didn't realize I had to do this with the customer and these items are not showing up right. Again, you've got to make sure that all your customers and your items are set up 100% right. And again, what I always try to make sure about is that, and I don't want people setting up their system and then making changes to it in terms of different solutions. But these are things to keep in mind when you're setting up within Sage Intacct, is that one is you're responsible for the correct sales tax rates. States are changing their rates constantly, so always make sure you have like alerts going on. Make sure you're notified of those rate changes. Again, as I just mentioned, Colorado is making a change as of July 1st. That means every client on July 1st has to go in and make a change to their setup with their sales tax. It's not done automatically, and most importantly, you can't really do it ahead of time because you don't want to start charging this wrong rate day before. So it's important that a lot of times people have to get in the system that morning and make sure that the rates are changed. If the rates change, that they're updating them right away for any new transactions that initiate that morning or that day. And we kind of talked about maintaining the sales tax rates, assigning them to the right customer. This is always, I kind of skipped that one. Always have to make sure that you understand what your client's taxing jurisdictions is and where they're located. In some states, again, really easy. Hey, you're located in this city. It makes it really easy. Other areas, such as you can literally go across the street and have a different sales tax rate. So you do have to make sure you keep those in mind and really understand what the right rate is for the customer. And then last but not least, with Sage Intacct, out of the box, what you're going to do is be responsible for filing all sales tax returns. So what does that mean? So you're going to print out a report once a month from the system. If you're doing sales tax filing monthly, for example, you're going to print out the report, you're going to get that information, and then you're going to fill out the sales tax schedules yourself. So it again works great depending upon if you're not doing a lot of sales tax. This is a great solution. But again, make sure you follow those rules of following this process flow. If you have this little, and trust me, all our consultants here at ETHOSystems, we got this little map pinned for our help, because this is like the best diagram to have to really understand it at that point. So one of the other solutions, as I mentioned, is Avalara. And with that, what I like to do is turn it over to Joel with Avalara to kind of explain what their solution does and how it enhances Sage Intacct and takes it to the next level. So Joel, I'm going to give you mouse and keyboard controls and turn it over to you.
Perfect. Yeah, thanks, Stuart. I'm going to put this in presentation mode, or at least attempt to. Let's see if this works.
It's on a
maybe not
different screen. Sorry about that.
Oh, it is. Gotcha. That's okay. We could do this. There's just going to be one slide to add like layover. It was really fancy, so it may look jumbled. But so Avalara, obviously we're a separate company. I just like this logo because the tagline, making sales tax less taxing. That's basically what everybody wants, right? You want to focus on your business, what you're good at. And sales tax is just something that is required. And so we're here to just make that part of your lives a whole lot easier. So I think it would make sense just to briefly talk about who we are before digging into how we work with Avalara. And just quickly, my name's Joel Wright. I'm an alliance manager at Avalara. I work in the partner channel department, I guess, really just working with organizations like Ethos. Ethos is an amazing partner of ours. I work with other partners in the Intacct space, but I also work with partners in completely different industries, from e-commerce to consulting, other ERP providers. So I do have a good understanding of just what's going on across different industries and different departments, because obviously ecom may be different from accounting. We have CRM folks that are tagging our system. You know, if you wanted to add sales tax to a proposal rather than an invoice, you could tag our system to get an accurate proposal put together to share with customers or potential new clients. As you can see here, we've been around for a long time. We started in 2004. It really started as like an Excel spreadsheet out of Bainbridge Island outside of Seattle, Washington. And it's grown into now, you know, we're global. We're in 12 different countries with 20 different offices. I think our employee count is closer to around 4,000 now. It's a cloud-based platform. As you can see here, we have over 1,000 different integrations. But as Stuart mentioned, Intacct is great because our platform is actually developed inside of Intacct. So everything looks, feels, it's all intact, right? And our system is just processing that tax calculation in milliseconds. And what it is also doing is there's an API call to our, what we're called an AvaTax dashboard, in which we store transaction data, and I'll get into it a little bit more as to why we do that. As you can see here in the bottom right, you see rapid growth. And part of that is because the government's been really good to us. Sales tax has not gotten any easier over the years. It's just gotten more and more complex, which makes more sense to outsource and use a system like Avalara. But also in 2018, we did go public. So if you wanted to listen to one of our quarterly earnings calls, you could hear just the state of our business and where we're growing. Like I said, Intacct is a huge component, and construction, as Stuart mentioned in the beginning, sales tax for construction historically hasn't been a big deal, but it certainly is turning into that. And then obviously there's use tax that you have to deal with in both construction and real estate. So those two things in the wheel of what Avalara is, we consider that calculations. So use and sales tax calculations. That's our primary business is that. But we do a whole lot of other things, because tax is tax, but really it's compliance, right? For a business, it's making sure that you're doing things appropriately, because there is potential penalties if you're not. And so really our solutions are all around compliance. As I mentioned before, even though our solution is calculating, it's built inside Intacct. We're also storing data in an Avalara AvaTax dashboard. That's primarily because, if we understand how much you're applying, how much tax you're applying to an invoice, then it's super simple for us to go on ahead and manage the return process to the states. So we could do the returns on your behalf. We could register and manage that return. And if you see over here on the right, fiscal representation, we could actually pay those states on whatever the frequency is, monthly, quarterly, semi-annual, or annual, whatever it is. We could pay those states the amount that was collected with the appropriate reporting. So there is that fiscal representation component. It's very similar to, if you're used to payroll, if you're outsourcing payroll, then they do a single ACH, whatever your pay frequency is, and then distribute the funds to all the employees. It's exactly the same here. We just do a single, withdrawal, and then we distribute all those funds to the independent states. The cool thing about that is that, if a state does have a question on anything and they send you a letter, Avalara manages that on your behalf. So we will respond to the state, and we'll be that representation for you. So making sales tax less taxing, that's definitely part of it, right? Just completely reducing the amount of time that your staff members are having to deal with this sort of thing. Documents, if you have any customers that you're not charging sales tax to, then you need to have an exemption certificate for that customer, right? You need to prove that you shouldn't be charging sales tax. And the things that businesses are caught in during an audit, exemption certificates is a huge one, because it's just an afterthought, that it's just this document that you need to store. So we actually help our clients to collect up-to-date records from their customers. We store that, and then Intacct, if you're going through and you have an exempt customer and you create an invoice, we actually tag that exemption certificate to that transaction. So, you know, from an audit perspective, it's super simple for an auditor to see, oh, okay, well, here's that document, you're good to go. Licenses, this is very large from a, you know, just a value perspective in construction and real estate, because obviously you have tons of licenses that you need to maintain. There's permits in order to start a new job that you need to set up. I like to think of it as a red tape to do business. And we have a solution that could help essentially our clients make sure that they're getting the appropriate permits or licenses wherever that job is at. And we have a managed service team that could do that on behalf of our clients, or there's a self-serve. So, you know, if you're doing a job in Maricopa County, Arizona, let's say, and you know, you put in the specific address, it will actually have a drop down as far as all the different licenses you need to do for that specific type of work. So very helpful tool that saves a ton of time. It keeps things organized because it's a storage solution as well. So you have, you know, the start date, the expiration date, when it was filed, you have all of that data in that system. And then insights on the bottom right, this is a great tool. We call it the Google of tax. It's basically a resource for businesses that aren't sure about the taxability of a specific situation. You could just type it in and it's audit ready answers for how to tax that specific situation. So a customer reached out the other day and they're like, okay, well, we're in Florida, we just shipped product to South Texas. We had a courier pick up the product in South Texas and it was delivered to Monterrey, Mexico. How do I tax that? We're like, well, let's Google it. And we literally just pulled it up and found out exactly how to tax it. So if you have instances where you're like, man, I'm not sure what I should do here, that's literally what this product's for. And then there's also other features that it includes, like self-assessment for your nexus. You know, if you have economic or physical nexus, if you wanted to do a self-assessment, there's a solution there. There's also a way to tag your products. So as Stuart mentioned earlier, you know, if you're in Intacct, if you did the advanced tax, you know, and you're having to put in the taxability for a product for a client, you could actually use our research tool in conjunction with that to get push notifications if the product taxability ever changes in a specific area. So we call it a tax matrix that you could populate in there, that you could get notifications like that. So just a great resource, keeps you from going to your CPA and getting billed whatever their hourly rate is. So that just is overall, you know, what Avalara is here to provide. And so this slide, why do companies outsource tax? I think it's kind of, there's nothing surprising here. Obviously, it's risk aversion. You want to make sure that you're calculating the correct amount. You're not going to get caught in an audit. So there's that. And then there's time savings, right? So you know, you have team members that work for you to do other things that shouldn't include just sales tax compliance. So, you know, it keeps them from having to keep up with all the appropriate rates. It's all automated. And then of course, you know, you're confident because you went through the process of making sure that your products are taxed correctly in our system. And then after that point, you know, it's just all automated. So a lot of ROI for businesses to outsource. Part of the reason why you see Avalara's growth trajectory there. So this is a slide, you know, kind of is all bundled in, but if it isn't in presentation mode, you would see words at the bottom. But, you know, if you're looking to address just the sales tax compliance bubble, if you will, this is kind of the steps that we have here. First is you got to figure out your nexus. You got to understand exactly where you should be collecting and remitting. And that's you know, just basic, but as much as things have changed over the last few years, I don't know if I said this already, but, you know, just with COVID, folks working from home, you know, creates physical nexus, you know, if they're maybe working from home in a different state. So, you know, I'm here in Texas, you know, if I had a small business, but I had one of my employees that moved to Colorado and is working from home in Colorado, well, now I need to file in Colorado. So just different things. And then of course, suppliers, where you're getting your materials from, there's a lot of different activities in your business that could have changed your nexus. So getting a grasp on what you have right now is obviously step one. Step two is product taxability, making sure that your products are being taxed appropriately at the appropriate jurisdiction. So that's three. Our system is geo-based, meaning it's longitude and latitude. It's not zip code based. And that's really important because if you get in like the greater Denver area, there's probably 15 different zip codes. And within one zip code, there could be 10 different tax components that may be a part of it. So zip code is not a very accurate way of, you're probably going to be close, but there could be some just really minute taxes that would make a difference. Like it could be oxygen tax, or who knows what there may be, but really using a geo base is the way to go to make sure that you're collecting the right amount. Exemption certificates, spoke about that a little bit before, just making sure that you have all the appropriate exemption certificates, making sure that you're filing appropriately at the states that you need to. And I'll just speak to this briefly. There's this SST here that stands for Streamlined Sales Tax, and it's a program that Avalara is included into, in which the states actually pay us to do the transaction and filing on behalf of businesses. So it's a great cost-saving tool for customers that do business in, I think there's 25 different states that are a part of this program. So if you're doing business in those states, the state literally pays us to do it on your behalf. So it's basically a free solution for you. So just a great way to save some money. But ultimately, if you're doing these 5 things, then you should be prepped for your audit. Just on the last slide, we talked about Nexus, just making sure you have a grip on, where you need to be collecting and remitting. If you're not sure, I just wanted to share, we have a couple of solutions. We have one that's free on our website. It's a questionnaire you could go through, and it produces a report for, what we think you should be, basically where you should be collecting and remitting. So that's a free report. There's also a paid-for assessment that includes a personal consultation with somebody from our tax team that will walk you through the report. It's a little bit more in depth as well. I believe we go back 2 years and look at transaction history over the last 2 years and produce, a report that shows where you should be collecting and remitting. And then, another option obviously is just to contact your SALT CPA and ask for them to do an analysis for you. But truly, if you're not sure, if there's any wiggle room on your confidence of your processes for managing sales and use tax, then definitely, this is a great thing to do just for peace of mind, if nothing else. So I would provide a live demo here, but unfortunately, well, I guess it's kind of a good thing. We're doing some enhancements for our system. So my demo environment's down until next month. We're launching a new product, but we do have this Intacct Avalara video. I think it's about 3 minutes long. So I'm just going to click play here, and it will show you exactly how Avalara looks within Intacct.
Today we want to show you just how easy it is to get started using Avalara to manage sales tax compliance within Sage Intacct. With this powerful combination, you can manage tax calculation and reporting, exemption certificates, and the filing and remittance of sales tax returns. So let's take a look. Avalara Avatax is already installed into your instance of Sage Intacct. With a few configuration options, your integration with Avatax is ready to use. To show the tax calculation, I will enter an invoice. I'll select my customer and the item I'm selling. When I click Subtotals, sales tax is calculated. As I post the invoice, the transaction is posted to the general ledger and commits the transaction into Avatax. This way you have easy access to all reporting necessary for filing tax returns or audit purposes. You can also review the results without leaving Sage Intacct, as I'm showing here. Now let's talk about the taxability of products and services. The way AvaTax manages ever-changing tax rules is through an association made right inside Sage Intacct, whereby a product or service you sell is associated to an Avalara tax code. When you set up AvaTax, you'll map your products and services to Avalara tax codes. You may remember that when I created my invoice, software as a service was the product I sold. SaaS and many other goods and services, for example, freight, clothing, and food, are taxable in some states and non-taxable in others. So product and service taxability is an incredibly important part of the tax compliance process. And one of the key benefits of Avalara's cloud-based solution is that taxability rules are continually updated within AvaTax. So there's nothing for you to maintain. You're always going to be up to date. Now let's say that my customer claims to be tax exempt. Avalara CertCapture provides a full exemption management solution where you can collect, store, and manage your customer's exemption certificates. Once you validate the completed certificate in CertCapture, the customer's invoice results will show their tax exemption. For many of our customers, perhaps what they love most about Avalara is that we can file and remit taxes on their behalf. Our fully managed returns service reduces exposure to late filing and other common penalties. And if a state sends a notice about a question on a return, Avalara will manage that process as well. The bottom line is you probably have better things to do than managing the intricacies of sales tax compliance. Instead, leave it to Avalara, where tax compliance is done right.
Quick and simple. Hopefully that gave you a good understanding. I don't know if anybody noticed, but in that demo, there was actually a Colorado transaction that it demoed. And if you saw, there was about 9 different tax lines on that one transaction. So again, going back to zip codes, not the way. It's really geo-based to make sure that all those taxes are being added onto an invoice, right? So, Stuart, I think that's all we had. So I'll pass it back over to you. I really appreciate the time.
No, thank you, Joel, for presenting today on this. It's a great add-on or a great, I hate to use the word add-on, but it's a great addition to Sage Intacct. Obviously, as we mentioned, it's built in, but great job there. So with that, I just want to make sure there's any questions along the way. We haven't received, I've been monitoring and answering a few in the background here. Just want to make sure that we haven't had any other questions for that. So just to kind of recap, if you have any questions afterwards, please let us know. Please reach out to us at ETHOSystems. My contact information was at the beginning. If you need any information on sales tax, please let us know. Any other future training recommendations, we're always up for suggestions, and have taken all of our clients up on what they've been asking for so far. So that's been great. And please feel free to sign up for our additional trainings. Stay cool out there. I know it's hot out there right now, and appreciate everyone's time today, and have a great day. Take care.
Thanks, everyone.